Recording. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good evening. We are now at 9:15 p.m. on 23rd of June. We are going to go through our lecture on flip-flops. Continue from last week. Last week we covered these lectures, and today we are going to cover on flip-flops. So I'm going to share the slides. Share the slides. Okay. Anybody can see the slides? Flip-flops. Okay. Last week we study on the lectures, and today we are going to continue with the flip-flops. What is a flip-flops? Flip-flops are synchronous bistable devices. Lectures was asynchronous, right? Or synchronous lectures last week. Nobody remembers.
Okay. Kita orang baru habis ni, sir. Ingat saya. Lectures, sir.
Huh?
Ingat, sir. Lectures. Kita orang baru habis minggu ni. Tu yang otak tu sikit, sir.
Okay. So, lectures was a asynchronous bistable device. And flip-flops is a synchronous bistable device. When it's synchronous, it means that it has a clock. Last week, lectures do not have clock. Okay, it has an enable signal, but not a clock. So a flip-flop differs from a latch in the manner it changes states. So flip-flops changes state synchronously, which is depending on the clock, whereas latches change state asynchronously. It does not have a clock. So for flip-flops, it is edge-triggered and only changes state in response to a clock input. Right? It will only change in the clock input. Okay. Edge-triggered flip-flops. And edge-triggered flip-flops changes state either at the positive edge, which is the rising edge, or at the negative edge, falling edge of the clock. Plus the clock pass and is sensitive to its input only at this transition of the clock. It only sensitive at the whether it's at the positive edge or at the leading edge. Let me get the pen. Okay. So this is the positive edge. That means that it only changes when it changes from 0 to 1. This is positive edge. Negative edge, it only changes from 1 to 0 transition. Okay. So the state, if it changes during the positive edge, basically that is only changed at here, 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 and here. If it changes at the negative edge, so it's changed here, here, and here, and here. So in the question, you have to be very careful when reading the question. It will state whether it changes at negative edge or positive edge, or even if it's from the diagram, you should be able to recognize whether it's a trailing a positive edge or negative edge. Right? All changes occurs in sync with the clock input. So all will change simultaneously at this instance if it's at the positive edge, or at this instance if it's in negative edge. Okay. So this figure basically just to show the clock whether it's positive edge or negative edge. Okay. Type of edge-triggered flip-flops are SR flip-flops, D flip-flops, and JK flip-flops. Okay. So these are the types of flip-flops, edge-triggered. SR flip-flop, this is for positive edge. For positive edge, look at the clock. This is actually the clock signal, C. You see that you have the triangle here, and there is no bubble. So when there is no bubble, means that is a positive edge. So this is SR, D, and JK. For the negative edge triggered, it has a bubble. So that's the difference. From here, from the diagram, you know that you can recognize this is the negative edge when you have the bubble. So sometimes the question will tell you positive edge or negative edge, and sometimes the question will just be silent and let you recognize from the diagrams. Okay. So these are the negative edge triggered D flip-flops and JK flip-flops. SR flip-flops actually the equivalent to the SR latch. JK flip-flops. Do we have the JK latch? No, right? So these are the edge-triggered flip-flops. You will learn this, and some of them will be in the final. If it's not in the final, maybe it will be in the second test in 2 weeks' time. Now we go to SR flip-flops. So this is the logic diagram of the SR flip-flops. This one looks very familiar, right? Right? This is actually the latch, and this is actually the steering gates. So you have SR, you have the gate 1 and gate 2, and you have the gate, what we call it, this for the SR latch. So this is the clock where you have the pulse. You have the input pulse here, right? So this pulse transition detector detect a rising or falling edge and produce a very short duration spike. So it will produce a spike, and this spike will activate these steering gates. So this is the truth table. So the input, basically you have the S, R, and the clock. So you have 3 inputs, and you have the output as Q and Q bar. Okay. So this one is that positive edge or leading edge or rising edge clock. So if there is no pulse, S and R 0, so there is no change. So the Q is equal to the Q naught. Q naught is the previous output, the output level prior to the clock transition. So it does not matter whether the clock is rising or falling. If S and R are 0, Q does not change. When S is 0, R is 1, which is, and the clock is, there is a pulse in the clock. Therefore, the output is reset, 0. Q is 0. If S is 1 and R is 0 and is a positive edge or rising edge, then the output is 1, it's set. When S and R are 1, both are 1, and clock is positive edge, the output is invalid. And this is an invalid condition, right? So these are the truth tables of the SR flip-flops. So you need to remember this. So let's say S is 1, R is 0, right? And the flip-flop sets on the positive clock edge. So when there is a positive change from 0 to 1, then the output will change from 0 to 1 because it's a S is 1, it's a set. If Q is already set at if Q naught is already set, therefore the Q does not change. It remains set. Okay. This is the reset operation. When S is 0, R is 1, and when the clock trigger, then the output will change from 1 to 0, or if it's 0, remains as 0. So Q is reset. Okay? If both are 0, 0, when the clock trigger, the output is the output will not change. So if Q naught is 1, then Q remains 1. If Q naught is 0, Q remains as 0. Right? So this is as a positive edge SR flip-flops.
Saya yang B tak faham saya.
Huh?
Kat bahagian Q.
Which one?
B.
Huh?
Yang B tu saya. Yang Q dengan Q.
Why?
Q bar.
Tak faham kat mana?
Tak faham. Maksudnya 1, 0 tu maksudnya Q tu 1, Q bar tu 0 ke sir?
Of course. Which one? So basically, okay, this one, okay, basically Q bar is the complementary of Q. So when Q is 1, Q bar is 0. If Q is 0, Q bar is 1. So if Q is like this, from high to low, therefore this one is from low to high.
Oh, faham sir, faham sir.
Okay?
Okay sir.
Right?
Right.
So this one will be like this. It's actually the opposite of this, complementary of that. Okay? So this one, let's say remains there at 1. So therefore Q remains there at 0. No change. Okay?
Okay sir.
Example. The waveform shown below are applied to SR flip-flop. Determine the Q and Q bar output waveforms. Assume that the positive edge triggered flip-flop is initially reset. So basically that you assume the Q starts from 0. So Q bar is 1. So you have Q here. Saja saya nak draw Q at 0. So when clock is triggered, because this is positive edge, so it will trigger here, 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 and here. It will not trigger here. This is the negative edge. So it will not trigger here. So it's only trigger here. So now, when the clock is changed from 0 to 1, and S is 0, R is 0, what happened? What happened?
No change.
No change. So it will stay no change until here.
Yes.
So from here, S is 0, R is 1. What happened?
Reset, sir.
Reset. So reset
Yes.
Q is equal to what?
Yes.
If it's reset, Q equal to 1 or 0? 0.
0, sir.
So continue until here. Sorry, my hand is not stable enough. So it's 0, right?
Yes,
so from
sir.
here, if it's 0, then
Set.
this one is S is 1, R is 0, clock is trigger. So what happened? It goes
Set.
set high
Q with 1.
until here, right? High. Then what happened here?
Reset.
Reset. So it
Reset.
goes
Set
to
Q 0.
0
0.
until here. Then what happened here?
No change.
Set.
Are you sure it's
Set.
no change?
Set.
Set.
Then going up until here. So then what happened? S is 1, R is 0. So it's still 1.
Set.
Okay, so that is the Q. See? So basically that's 0, 0, trigger remains until here. Over here, which is S is 0, R is 1, basically it resets. So Q is 0. So it's no change up to here. So here, when the clock is triggered, S is 1, R is 0, it means Q is 1 because it's set. So change to 1 until here. Then clock is triggered, S is 0, R is 1 means reset. So it changed from 1 to 0. Then clock is triggered when S is 1, R is 0 is set. So Q is 1 until here. Then clock is triggered, S is 1, R is 0. So it's set. So Q is 1. So therefore it's no change because the previous one is already 1. So then for Q bar, you just take the complement of the Q. So that's the complement of the Q. Simple.
Sir, kena draw dua-dua je.
Yes.
Okay,
Then
sir.
you get-
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then you get the marks. That is SR flip-flops. Now we go to the next flip-flop, is D flip-flops. This one you have to remember because this will be in the, all this will be in the test, whether it's in test 2 or in the finals. D. The D flip-flops is actually a data. It store the data in the memory. The addition of an inverter to the SR flip-flops create a basic D flip-flops. So basically from the SR flip-flops, you add this inverter. Basically that for the input of R is actually the D bar. So D flip-flops is useful when a single data bit 1 or 0 is to be stored. So the truth table is that when D is 1 and clock is triggered, then Q is 1, is set. And of course, Q bar is 0 because it's the complement of Q. When D is 0 and clock is triggered, then the output Q is 0 and Q bar is 1. So it's a reset. This is the positive triggered. For negative triggered, when D is 1 and clock change from 0 to 1, from 1 to 0 is trailing falling edge, then Q is 1 is the set. And D is 0. If D is 0, clock is changed from 1 to 0, then Q is 0, Q bar is 1 is reset. The difference between positive positive edge trigger and negative edge trigger is actually that which part of the clock that you will store, you will start to store the value, the data into the memory. So you store here when the clock is from 0 to 1. This one, you store the data when it's from 1 to 0. Examples. You are given the timing diagram, the waveforms for the D input and the clock. Determine the Q output waveform if the flip-flop start out as resets. So basically the Q start from 0 at reset position. So this is a positive edge triggered, right? Look at the diagram.
Yes, sir.
Because there is no bubble at C, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So now, so basically that it will trigger here, 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 and here. It will not trigger here. Yeah, it will not trigger here. So D is 1. Clock is triggered. What happened? Q. What happened?
Set, sir. 1.
1 until here. So then what happened? D changed to 0.
Reset, sir.
Goes to 0. Why it does not happen here? Why
Sebab
does it
clock.
change that?
Clock ni.
Okay, because the
No.
clock is not
Stay 9.
it
Not
is not,
change. 0, 0.
yes, the clock is not triggered.
Zero.
So here, what happened? Right?
Yes, sir.
Then goes to, so this is the R, Q.
Q.
Okay. See, notice that the output change on the rising edge of the clock. You recognize here, even though the question didn't say, so you look at the diagrams. So that is the solution. Right? Same as what I draw up there.
Saya confused lagi, sir.
So confused kat mana? Which part? You confused?
Yang part 3 tu. Yang A tapi yang ketiga tu.
Which one? Tiga, which one? Here.
Yang fasa ketiga, yes.
Yeah. So which part?
Macam ni dia boleh jadi 1.
This D is 1.
Oh.
D is 1. So it's set. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Basically that you look at where the clock is triggered, what is the value of the data? Same thing, whether it's SR or D or JK, you look at where it triggered.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay, sir.
JK flip-flops. JK flip-flop is versatile and widely used type of flip-flops. So the functioning of the JK flip-flop is identical to that of the SR flip-flops in the set and reset and no conditions of operation. The difference is that the JK flip-flops has no invalid state. So basically that J and K can be one at the same time. If it was SR, S cannot be S and R cannot be one at the same time, right? Remember? If it's SR, S is 1, R is 0, and clock is triggered, then Q is 1. If S is 0, R is 1, and clock is triggered, then Q is 0. If S is 1,
sir.
R is 1, clock is triggered, it's invalid.
Invalid.
But in JK flip-flops, if J is 1, K is 0, clock is triggered, then Q is 1. If J is 0, K is 1, clock is triggered, then Q is 0.
0.
When J is 1, K is 1, clock is triggered, you have a value. It's a valid state. So that's the difference between J and JK flip-flop and SR. Okay. Note that the Q, the output is connected back into the G2 input and the Q bar is connected back to the G1. So basically the difference is that with the SR flip-flop, you have this line and this line, this feedback, these two lines. If you take out this line, then exactly is an SR flip-flops. Okay, that is the truth tables of JK flip-flops. So JK flip-flop is that this is the difference between the SR, that you have the outputs, which is it toggles. What does it mean it toggles? It means that it change, it complements the previous state. If the previous state is 1, then Q becomes 0. If the previous state is 0, Q becomes 1 because this bar there. So this subscript here indicates the previous state. So if J is 0, K is 0, and clock is triggered, then no change. It remains as the previous state. If 0, 1, clock is triggered, then it's reset. If J is 1, K is 0, clock is triggered, then it's set. If it's J is 1, K is 1, and clock is triggered, then it complements the previous state. We call it the toggle. So if both J and K are high, the output will toggle on each successive rising clock edge. So the truth table for negative edge triggered device is identical except that it triggered on the falling edge of the clock. So it's only triggered at the falling edge of the clock. So basically just change this part. Change this part. Right? The rest are the same. Example. The waveform shown below are applied to the JK flip-flops. Determine the Q output. Assume that the flip-flop is initially reset. So Q is 0. Start with the 0. And you look at the diagram, you know that this is a negative edge JK flip-flops. How do you know that?
Bubble, sir.
It has the bubble. Yes.
Bubble.
So therefore, it will trigger here and not here. Trigger here. So that's why you have this line here, dotted line. In the question, in the exam, we don't give you this dotted line. You have to draw it yourself based on your understanding. Okay. Now,
Okay, sir.
over here. Okay, now we start. Q is 0 at this moment, okay? Because it's initially reset. So Q is 0. So J is 1, K is 1, and the clock is triggered. What happened? Q is from 0, it toggle, right?
Toggle. 1.
It becomes 1. So it becomes 1. So from 0, it becomes 1. Okay?
1.
Up to that. Okay, now J is 0, K is 0, and it toggles. What happened? No change. So stay as 1. And here, J is 1, K is 1. What happened? J is 1, K is 1.
Bukan J
So,
0 ke, sir?
Q is
Reset.
that that
Reset.
or reset.
Reset.
There. It's a reset. So it's 0. So it changed from 1 to 0. Here. So what happened here? J is 1.
Set.
So it's set to here. So what happened?
No change.
No change.
Straight je. Yes.
So this, notice that the output change on the falling edge of the clock. So this is the solution. It toggles, no change, reset, set, and set. Okay. This carry mark actually, if you can see, if you understand, you will, it's easy. You can solve the question very easily. And you have to actually to draw Q and Q bar in order to get full marks. Not just draw Q. Okay? You have to draw both Q and Q bar. The next one is T flip-flop. T flip-flops is called a toggle flip-flops. When T is equal to 1, the flip-flop changes state after the active edge of the clock. When T is equal to 0, no state change occurs. So the truth table for a positive edge triggered flip-flop is as follows. T is 0, clock is triggered, then Q is no change. Because T is 0 means no change, no state change. Then T is 1, clock is triggered, then it's complements the previous state. So Q is equal to Q naught bar. So it toggles. So the truth table for the negative triggered edge device is identical, except that it's triggered on the falling edge of the clock. So you just change the direction of the clock, of the arrow of the clock. That's all. Example, this is a T flip-flops. The waveform shows below are applied to the negative edge triggered T flip-flops. Determine the Q output, assuming that the flip-flop is initially reset. So it will trigger at the falling edge. So it's already drawn there with the dotted line. So Q start with a 0 and it will reach at the trailing edge here. So basically, start from 0 here. What happened?
No change.
T is 0, no change. Okay. Naiknya dia. Okay. Then after that, it toggles, right?
Toggle.
Here,
No change.
change, then toggle.
Toggle.
So somewhere, something like that. Okay. Solution. See? Why you have the TP there? You have some delay actually in the practical flip-flops. The change will not be instantaneously. You have some delay. Some millisecond or microsecond of delay.
Yang dia ke tepi sikit rasa.
Dia akan
Sebab
apa
dia
ni
tak
lah.
ubah.
Dia macam slew rate. Remember? Slew rate of
Yes.
the op-amp that is
Slew.
it didn't automatically the change of the what do you call it the voltage did not change do not change simultaneously instantaneously. It has a certain slew rate.
Slew rate.
Yes.
Kita draw tu kena ada lah.
Oh.
Tak payah. So basically slew rate is basically the changes like this. From here dia naik sikit. Then dia naik macam ni. Then from here dia nak turun tu dia terus slow. Then baru dia turun. Okay. So that is the end of the flip-flops. Any question on the flip-flop?
No, sir.
No.
Cuma kena hafal je kan sir, dia punya table tu kena faham sikit.
Kena faham, yes. You have to, what do you call it? You have to understand.
Baik sir.
So now I stop sharing that one. And I turn the camera on. Okay. So that is the end of the lecture on the flip-flops.
Oh,
And
okay.
right now it's 9:54. So basically that we spend about
1 hour.
almost 1 hour. So I have another lecture on, let me see. We have, okay, we finished the lecture number 9. So we have 10 and 11.
10 and 11.
Yes, basically on the digital memory and storage. This is chapter 10 of the, what we call it, chapter 10 of the Floyd. So these slides, we have about 26 slides altogether. So this is actually very simple.
1 day class.
Very simple slides, 10 slides, 26 slides. So you want to continue with that lecture, or we want to stop here?
Stop.
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 I follow the rest. Follow the flow.
Follow the rest.
So you want to stop here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So make sure that you study and make sure that you review on lectures and flip-flops because it's important. Okay?
Ada tak confirmation untuk test 2, sir?
Huh?
Test 2
Bila?
bila, sir?
Bila?
Di dalam kemurungan ni, sir. Sebab
Why?
final is around the corner kan, sir?
Sir, betul, sir.
Betul, sir.
So basically that's okay. You have another 2 weeks.
Nangis.
Next week. 2 week, sir. Minggu depan ada exam,
So
sir.
minggu depan ada exam. Lepas tu next 2 weeks dah final.
Oh. Final.
Mana? Your final is on okay. Your final is okay. Today is 23rd. Okay. So basically that's on 25th. We finish the chapter 10,
5th, alright.
and then after that on the 30th we finish the
11.
chapter 11. Then maybe on the 3rd we can have the test 2 or on the 10th test 2.
Third, sir.
3rd or 10th?
10, sir. 10, sir.
10. Okay. We'll have the test 2 on the 10th. And the final will be on the 27th.
27.
Right?
Jerin. Yang
Yo,
kita
yo.
punya first exam bila, Jerin? Final?
Sekejap.
Yo. Nanti assignment, sir.
First exam 6 hari bulan, sir.
Huh? Bila? First final.
First final. Tu first exam.
6 hari bulan. So on the 10th ada final tak?
10 no, sir. 9
Hmm.
hari bulan ada, sir. 9 hari bulan
Eh?
ada. 10 tak ada.
11 ada?
11.
Tak ada. Sabtu.
11 pun tak ada, sir. 13 baru ada, sir.
Dynamic, sir.
13 dynamic.
13 dynamic, sir. Killer, sir.
Gila. The most.
Demam saya, Kang, sir.
So nak bila? Test 2.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Dia bincang kat WhatsApp, sir.
Kita bincang kat WhatsApp.
Okay.
Dia WhatsApp, sir.
Sebab kita orang dalam dilema
Okay.
ni, sir.
So basically that we have to have a test 2 so that you have a feeling of what is going to be in the final. What
Nanti saya
kind
beritahu
of
tau.
question will be in the final.
Sir, saya beritahu which question yang saya buat.
Saya buat.
Ah.
Saya buat soalan nombor 2 dengan soalan nombor 4 lah.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay, sir. No problem.
Why no problem?
We learn
Pasal nak
from
tahu
the
soalan yang
mistakes.
saya
sir.
buat.
We learn from the mistakes, sir.
Why? Macam mana nak tahu? Pasal pula nak tahu soalan yang saya buat? Soalan saya susah ke?
Another level.
Bukan, soalan saya tak susah, jawapan saya.
Ada yang kata soalan saya susah, jawapan senang.
Terbalik je.
Terbalik, sir.
Bila tengok jawapan bukannya senang ke apa? Oh, senang je sebenarnya. Betul tak?
Biar betul.
Nak faham soalan je susah ya?
Betul, sir.
Bila dah faham, senang je jawapan dia. Straightforward je.
Tak sihat, sir.
Bila
Hari
dapat
tu
markah
malam.
test one, sir? Bila saya nak bagi markah test one?
Nantilah saya bagi. Next week saya bagi lah.
Okay, sir.
Maksudnya this week and next week gonna be hectic lah.
Ya.
Plus assignment.
Plus assignment. Plus
Assignment saya bagi setakat mana
Seven tu.
7.
Saya masih
Saya bagi
six.
Boolean algebra flip-flops dengan latches belum lagi lah.
Belum lagi sir.
Nanti saya bagi lah sikit.
Sikit sir. Diskaun kan je sir.
Discount sir, sikit je. Sikit.
For
Yang
you
masuk
to
exam.
study, for you to understand the
Baik sir.
assignment
sir.
is for you to understand.
Baik sir. Kami reda
Okay.
dulu.
Buat exercise, buat and then submit je.
Baik sir.
Okay.
Boleh sir.
Markah saya bagi, tak ada masalah.
Baik sir.
Thank you sir.
Thank you sir.
Okay. So, okay. Any other question? Hafiz angkat tangan tu, ada soalan? Suka apa benda?
Sugar?
Ada tu.
Ayo.
Azrin, apa? Ada soalan?
Tak ada sir. Tak ada sir.
Okay. Hafizuddin. Ayu ni, senyap ya? Ke tidur? Ayu ni. Tidur. Tak jawab. Mana Dayana?
Ayu ni
Bangun.
Ayu
Ayu ni tidur. Biasa mana juga dengar suara.
Biasanya dia happy sir.
Dayana tidur lagi. Dayana bangun. Tak menjawab, tidur.
Sebaik time saya tidur sir tak
Ni, kik semua. Kalau tak nanti 3 jam.
Tengok tu, tidur semua. Ayu ni tak menjawab, Dayana tak menjawab.
Connection tu sir, connection.
Connection kot sir. Yang lain tak ada hidup
Dia
sir.
dekat sir, mungkin tak dengar.
Yang lain hidup sir.
Arif Najmi memang dah out dah ni. Dah keluar dah.
Hafiz ada sir, Hafiz ada.
Hafiz. Tu sir Hafiz.
Memang Hafiz ada, saya tahu.
Arif line tak ada tu sir. Dia dah
Tadi
best.
lain tak ada.
Dayana tu senyap tidur je.
Diana internet connection sir. Dia kan tak dengar agak.
Okay. So, okay.
Tu Arif ada dah sir.
Ya. So, okay. Next. Yang tak ada basically, yang betul-betul tak ada. Emelina. Sekejap saya update sikit ada attendance.
Amalina ada masalah connection sir.
Ya. Basically, Nurin Safawati langsung tak ada. Tak login pun Nur Azrin ada
Ada.
Sir ada sir.
Tadi ada
Ada. Tadi saya masuk lambat sikit sir.
Okay. Hafiz ada. Vinoshan tak ada. Turkish ada tu.
Sir. Sir, Mino connection problem sir.
Okay.
Saya ada sir, Turkish ada.
Okay.
Alright sir.
So yang tak ada Vinoshan, Nurin Safawati
Nurin
and
pun connection sir.
Amalina. 3.
Nurin dia
Okay.
bagi tahu saya tadi connection sir.
Okay. So siapa yang yang ada minta nak balik kampus start daripada 1 hingga bermula 1 hingga 5, 1 dan 5 bulan 7?
Tak nak sir. Saya relay duduk rumah.
Sebab ada yang apa ni, yang ada internet connection apa semua untuk final nanti. So you have the apa ni, the opportunity to come to stay in campus, so that you can have that you can take online exam from your dorm or from whatever lah. Maybe dia letak you dalam Dewan ke apa ke, tak tahu lah. So yang mana yang ada masalah internet connection.
Oh. Tak apa rasa. Saya tak nak
You
lah
punya
balik.
PA tak ada cerita, tak ada cakap ke?
Ada sir. Tapi
So
saya
basically dia adalah minta tanya siapa yang nak balik kampus.
tak apa dah sir.
So
Saya sanggup.
basically that is the purpose. That is the purpose yang PA tanya siapa yang nak balik ke kampus. Actually for you to minimize your problem in in internet connection when doing the final exam nanti. Macam saya punya kelas very simple. You punya test actually start pukul 9. So I release soalan pukul 9. I think diorang yang akan release soalan kot, tak tahulah how they do it. Tak apa.
Sir, yang borang angkat sumpah tu saya guna yang hari tu punya cerdas sir. So saya betul state yang guna hari tu je lah. Ambil masa sir nak buat benda tu.
Tak apalah. Tak apa. Tak, dia macam ni je. Yang submit, katalah saya tak tahu universiti nak buat macam mana untuk dia punya nak release the soalan tu. What I will do is that I will release earlier through WhatsApp. Dalam saya release release dalam half an hour earlier ke. Then after that you
Terus buat.
terus buat lah.
Thank you sir.
Tapi tak tahu lah, tiba-tiba takut dia tukar soalan ke.
tu special case teruk je.
Sebab saya buat saya set 1 and set 2. Dua set. So mana nak tahu, takut tiba-tiba saya bagi soalan set 1, tiba-tiba dia bagi set 2 ke.
So probability 0.5 lah setiap pelajar untuk jawapan sama. Soalan sama.
Tak tahu lah. Saya very simple je, you buat je.
Okay sir.
Okay sir.
So you will be given 3 jam setengah. So maknanya 2 jam setengah untuk menjawab soalan, satu jam untuk preparation lah. So soalan dia saya buat lebih kurang macam last year punya soalan lah.
Susah tak ke?
Susah. Biasalah soalan saya mesti ada design punya.
Jujurnya sir. Habis dah.
Untuk flip-flop apa semua, you kena draw timing diagram lah macam tadi. Simple je.
Baik sir.
You kena you have to know how to draw the timing diagram. You have to understand how it works. And then kalau macam macam op-amp, is still kira-kira ke, design ke. Manalah tahu. Of course, soalan tak sama lah daripada dengan test 1 hari tu. Cara dia lebih kurang lah. So, just make your revision and tengoklah. Study. Boleh jawab tu. So okay. We continue next hari Khamis. We go through most probably finish the on the memory ya. On the memory punya ni. Then after that, we go to some apa ni on the microprocessor. So most probably that I can finish in 2 hour punya lecture lah. Those two. And in the exam, only in test 2 lah keluar kot untuk dua chapter tu. But not in the final. The final is only up to 2 nights lecture untuk final. Okay?
Okay.
So, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, sir.
And I'm going to
Thank you,
dismiss
sir.
all of you. Okay.